Hi there, I'm Jon Devlin, the initial winner of the Train with Rich fundraiser as part of the BCS Classic. I am based out of Dallas, Texas. I work out at CrossFit Richardson, and I've been doing CrossFit for about 8 years.
John, man, thanks for making this time work today. I'm
Sure.
really excited to have this podcast. I remember the first time we did this, you drove down all the way to College Station. I guess at that time, maybe I hadn't developed the skill set of a Zoom recording, but then COVID kind of taught me that we can do these things virtually. So, good thing you didn't have to make that drive, or I didn't have to drive up. But I definitely wanted to interview you today and talk specifically about your experience being Rich Froning's partner back in 2019. What an amazing experience it was. Why don't you give me and give the listeners a brief kind of summary of what led to that day, like going as far back as when you started, CrossFit and watching the YouTube videos of him winning the CrossFit Games all the way to 2019, where you got to partner with your, as you told me back then, and even, at the time, your hero, he technically was an inspiration for you. And so give me kind of an overview of those 7 years or 6 years, however many years it was.
Yeah, sure. So I started my first exposure to CrossFit was watching Rich Froning and Dan Bailey at 2012 regionals doing Diane, so 21:15.9 handstand push-ups and deadlifts at 225. And I was about 300 pounds at the time, so watching those guys like flip upside down and do handstand push-ups like they were regular push-ups was just absolutely mind-blowing, right? And so I started watching then, and then started watching the 2012 games and watching Rich kind of dominate that as well. And that made me really want to just give CrossFit a try because, I mean, you look at Rich, you look at some of those games athletes, like those kind of are the prototypical kind of athletic build that you kind of want to be. And I was like, I want to change my lifestyle and look like that.
And at the time, you
Um,
had you had not been doing CrossFit. So had you been doing anything?
no, not at all, other than
Okay.
trips to McDonald's for breakfast all the time.
Yeah.
You don't get that heavy without trying. But yeah, so started CrossFit a few months later, and then it was about a 5 year journey from there. Sticking with it, lost a good amount of weight, got slowly more and more into it, and then my brother and Elijah McKinney, my old roommate, um, they decided to do the BCS Classic, which I'd never heard of because it was a little further away because I'm Dallas based. But they both went to Texas A&M, so they'd been around the community and seen the growth of the BCS. And then you went to the games and announced that Rich Froning was gonna one be there for a Q&A, and then a little bit later announced, hey, you know what? He also needs a partner, and he's gonna compete at this thing. Um, and so you put together the fundraiser for the Ronald McDonald House, which at the time I had no idea what that was either. I thought that was associated purely with the McDonald's that I was just talking about getting breakfast when I was unhealthy. So dove in a little bit to that organization, listened to your story with your son, and um, it made me really want to just kind of go all in for a good cause as well as work out with my hero. Um,
So at that time, which was 2019, about a month out of the event, you had fast forward. I mean, you were already pretty fit. I mean, CrossFit had changed your life, right? I mean, you were doing the handstand push-ups and a lot of other things. So at this
yeah,
time, when you had heard Rich would be there and there was an opportunity to work out with him, uh, in your mind, because I'm kind of curious about this, what did you think the odds of you actually getting to do this was?
honestly, it was probably less than 1 in 1,000. But something my baseball coach used to always say in high school, which kind of stuck with me, is like somebody's got to win. Why not you? Like, and so I couldn't help but throw my name in the hat, and it's something I really wanted. It was for a good cause. Like the worst case scenario there was I raised money for a good cause, and then I get to go watch my brother and my roommate compete and hopefully snag a picture with Rich there. Like that was the worst case scenario. Ended up getting the absolute best case scenario by winning and getting to partner with Rich and hang out all day and kind of get to be a celebrity for a day, which was super, super fun and surprising.
Well, and I definitely want to hear about that. And I want to talk specifically to the person out there who is listening to this podcast and has kind of this thought of, man, it would be so cool to be Rich Froning's partner on August 28th at this year's BCS Classic. But they, much like you, kind of feel like, man, the odds of me getting this is like 1 in 1,000 or whatever, 1% or less than 1%. You did some pretty incredible things. You fundraised a lot of money, but you got creative. You rallied your gym. I mean, you, like you said, you went all in because you said, I'm going to raise money for a good cause. And, if I get to work out with Rich, that's kind of the added bonus to that. And I think anybody who wants to do this is going to have that mindset. So give that person some ideas. Like, what did you do and how did you make that possible?
Sure. Well, first thing I did was, you know, yeah, I guess I'll back up a step. I could not have done this without the community at my gym, CrossFit Richardson. There's no way I could have done it even with just like my immediate friend group and my family. I needed a bigger community like that of a gym to kind of rally around me and do it. And so I started, the first couple days trying to figure out like what's the best way to get people one in my corner, but also excited to be in my corner instead of just sort of an obligation. So I started talking with the gym owner, John Marshall, a couple of coaches, and floated the idea of I always think about like the best CrossFit events at like the games are usually something where it's either got a barbell or a sandbag or something that you're progressing across the floor, right? And you can kind of see the person who's ahead. So a good example is at the 2019 games, the Noah versus Matt Fraser, that when they're doing Isabel at the end, whoever wins that wins the games, right? And you're seeing them like every 3 or 5 reps kind of move forward. Like that kind of layout on a workout gets people really excited. So I thought, how do I take that? How do I take the idea of fundraising, mash those together, and come up with an event? And so what I decided to do was a 10-minute AMRAP of clean and jerks at 275 pounds. And the weight, I just kind of picked something I knew I could hit for like not touch and go singles, but something that was heavy enough for me that every rep had to be a choice. And you could see that each rep was challenging for me.
What percentage of your max was 275 at that time?
It was like 85, right under 90, somewhere in that. So enough where like you knew you could make the power clean with a little bit of rest, but that jerk every time was you really got to go for it, right?
Yeah. So you asked people to donate a dollar amount per rep.
Yep, 10-minute AMRAP. Pick a dollar amount per rep that I hit there. And I tell you what, nothing's more motivating when you to hit those jerks specifically, because everyone likes to power clean. The jerks get tough. When you know that if you hit the jerk, you're suddenly moving the needle on that. And what it actually ended up happening, I didn't even think about this, was people would ask me, like, what's your goal in that 10-minute AMRAP? Like, I mean, you see people who have all levels of interest in CrossFit in a gym setting, right? Some people, it's just time to connect with people, move around, and go home. Like they don't care about the competitive side of it. So they're asking me like they had no concept of like how many reps can you even do at 275? And I was like, man, I don't know. I'm shooting for like 20 would be good. 25 is kind of the stretch goal there. And they're like, okay, here's how I'm going to donate to you. I'm going to go, call it $2 a rep for the first 20. But for every rep over 20, I'm going to put a bonus of like $5 a rep. So
wow.
And everyone who's done a CrossFit workout, like in a workout like Grace, 30 clean and jerks for time, like the first 20 feel good. And then those last 10 reps are just absolutely painful. So it was funny that people were incentivizing like the most painful part of that workout. But I think the bonus ended up being something crazy, like an extra $50-$60 a rep over 25 or over 20. So those five, I ended up getting 25. So those five extra reps, like that's 300 extra bucks right
Okay,
there.
so
And
you
so
had basically you ended up getting 25 clean and jerks at 275, which you sent us a little clip, which was amazing. And so what was the total dollar amount fundraised through that event or through that effort?
yeah, so it was about $7,000 that ended up coming through all that. It was so crazy, man. Like I was a little worried at first because it was a little slow. And that year we didn't have as much planning, I guess. We had like a week and then only a month to fundraise. So that's a really tight timetable. So I got the idea together in a week and had a few people, I think 48 hours before I did my 10-minute AMRAP. It was around like $20 to $25 a rep. But as we got closer to that deadline, that thing just took off. Like it ended up being, I think, around $230 a rep with like that $60 bonus. Ended up raising. People also just started kind of throw it like they're like, I don't care how many reps you get. Like here's like $100 or something like that, which was
Wow.
really cool. Because I put it on social media. I had other people put on their social media, so other people were coming tuning in and watching. You posted it, so I got like a random donation from a guy from the BCS Classic Facebook page or Instagram page. So I ended up raising $7,000 then, and I kind of knew in these scenarios because I had to do it early because of scheduling reason. Like we had 4 weeks to fundraise. I had to do all of my fundraising week one, with the exception of I had a very generous donor from CrossFit Richardson willing to match my donation at the end, like whatever it was. And I could basically pull the trigger at any point and let that match drop. The reason for that is, as you saw, like someone goes in week one and there was $7,000 from CrossFit Richardson. That gets people knowing like, hey, what I got to do. And so other people started raising more money as well. And it got to be a pretty tight race towards the end. And that's when I could drop the matching donation on it towards the
Now,
end.
was the match, and I remember, you shared that with me, was that something that came completely out of the blue, or was that something that you had kind of hoped for, asked for, or was that something that you didn't see coming?
Um, I had an inkling it was going to happen. It wasn't expected or guaranteed or anything, but no, it was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, no, man, I mean, so cool. In total, do you recall the exact amount that you specifically were able to fundraise from from your efforts, but specifically CrossFit Richardson community?
Gosh, I want to say it was like $14,200.
Yeah, no,
I'd have to go back and look to get the dollar amount,
and
but
it kind of came down to the wire, at the end. And describe to me, because the fundraising closed, I think, the week before.
mhm.
And were you nervous, or did you have any worries that you weren't going to get it?
I mean, you tell me. I was texting you saying like, "Oh man, yeah." No, I was absolutely nervous because so you go from that beginning of like, "Hey, this is a 1 in 1,000 shot, right?" And so on a 1 in 1,000 shot, you don't care if you lose. But as that thing was getting closer and closer, it's like, "Hey, that 1 in 1,000, that's now looking more like a 50-50 or better shot." And so you start getting really emotionally invested and checking it. And I had a few other donors that were like, hey man, like if you need a little bit more, let's see what we can do. Like they were getting hyped around me. And so we went and met. We got this little bar cafe in the neighborhood called Cafe Gecko, which is like a little outdoor patio. And so like 4 or 5 of us went that like on the last night at about 11:15, and we all just sat there with our phones and refreshed till the very end just to see. It was fun.
Wow, man, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Such a great story. Just the all the kind of preceding information leading up to the actual competition. So, at what point did you realize what the Ronald McDonald charity was all about and what they actually did? Did you kind of do that research throughout the month, or did you at one point have a conversation with somebody, or kind of, because I think in the beginning you mentioned you didn't really even know what Ronald McDonald Charity was.
Yeah, and so I did the research on my own, but really it was talking to you, man, that sort of when I came down for the podcast, that really kind of opened my eye. Like you can read an organization's mission and you can like kind of have a heart for it, but at least for me, hearing someone's personal testimony and personal connection to something, that's when I want to go all in on something like that. And hearing your story with your son, I mean, one broke my heart listening to it. Like that's tough. I can't fathom that. Especially, I mean, right before this when you're interacting with, I don't know which kid you're interacting with, but I'm seeing you, just love on your kids so much. I can't fathom what it was like for you and your wife in the hospital during that time. Like that had to have been so rough. And so to have an organization just sort of throw their arms around you like that and say, "Hey, we're here to support you." Like that's amazing.
Yeah, I think I shared this with you, but when Rich kind of gave us this awesome opportunity, and I had mentioned to my wife, I go, I really think we can raise a lot of money for a charity. And I asked her, I said, which charity would you like to do this for? And without even thought, she said Ron McDonald, because it was at that time so fresh, right? Because
Hmm.
this was July of 19. My son was born in February, and we were, at Texas Children's for 3 weeks, of which 2 of those weeks we stayed at Ronald McDonald House. And so, the thing about these types of, we'll call it nonprofits or organizations, what I've learned is you don't really know they're there until you need them. And so we were kind of one of those people that really in that time, we need them. And for people who are listening that aren't really sure what they do, kind of like you said, they meet you exactly when you need them the most. For people who are having kids in the hospital, or who little newborns especially, and they want to be in close proximity to those babies, or they want to be in close proximity, not just babies, but even grown children that sometimes have medical issues that need to be in the hospital. I mean, I was there with somebody who'd been there for 3 months, and you start talking about people where do you find a place to live and how expensive is that going to be? And then sometimes people have to make the hard decision to either go back home. Maybe one of them, the parents needs to go to work, but maybe one of the parents has the ability to stay with the kid. Well, now here's Ron McDonald. It's like, not only is it down the hall, right? It can be literally in the same building, but it can also accommodate them in a much more comfortable environment. There's a community dining facility. It just feels a lot better than, well, one, a hotel room can get very expensive, for 3 weeks or 3 months. And they charge you $25 a night, which is just amazing and then they have shuttles to the hospital, the one in Houston that was so close. So it's very, very specific needs that are being met through that organization. And so we locked arms here locally with the Central Texas Ron McDonald Charities, and then kind of really have just continued to support them. And last year we were able to do the same. You probably met Kyle, who got to work out with Rich, and we're able to fundraise about $12,000, in the middle of a pandemic, which I felt like was really successful. And with the combined effort of 2019, which was your part, along with other dollars that were fundraised, we raised $27,000. So over $39,000 in 2 years towards Ronald McDonald Charities. And we're hopeful that we can do even more this year with that, and really kind of finding guys like you who really, maybe the attraction is more to get to work out with Rich Froning. And then in that process, they get to help a great cause. So let's talk specifically about September 7th, 2019. I remember we picked Rich up at the airport in College Station that morning. I think his flight landed at like 9:30 or something like that. It's within minutes of the venue. And I remember walking him into the athlete area and introducing him to you. So I think you and I connected that morning, and I was like, hey man, just so you know, Rich will be here around this time. This is kind of how it's going to go down, blah, blah, blah. Like, give me a little bit of like what were you feeling that morning, dude? Like you're about to not only get to like meet Rich Froning, but work out with him all day.
So it was a huge mix of like absolute excitement and incredible nervousness, right? Because again, like once you're partnered with someone like Rich, like everyone's watching you, especially for like the first event. Um, and there's also an element of like, I don't like they always say like don't meet your heroes, right? Like there is that element in the back of my mind, like maybe Rich wasn't as cool of a dude as he portrayed himself on social media. Like you just don't know because you didn't interact with him. And so I thought there was the possibility like I meet this dude who I really like look up to and we work out twice and I don't see him outside of that. And it was like in a total letdown. It was the complete opposite of that in every way, shape, or form from the moment, you walked him in and like literally I think we shook hands and he just asked me like fired off like 3 or 4 questions about me and my life and stuff like that. And I was just kind of taken aback, like, huh, like he actually had an interest in it. But yeah, so a lot of excitement, a lot of nervousness, and really, but if you've been doing CrossFit for a while, um, there's that element of like 3, 2, 1, go. Like, and no matter like how bad of a day you've had or what else you got going on, like once that clock's kind of going, it's kind of great how you can just kind of shut everything off and just focus at the task at hand, which is why I think a lot of people actually gravitate towards CrossFit as a methodology because that's beneficial in a lot of ways, right? I had a bad day at work, but I can go kick the crap out of some burpee box jump overs and forget about that for a little bit. So all of those feelings sort of went away in the first workout when we lifted, and then I just tried to survive on a bike and a rower when he was not even breathing hard, I don't think.
Yeah. So first, I mean, I remember first event we actually went to the wrong pad.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
remember, and then we had to go. Actually, you guys are going to be over here because the event started early, and it was a couple hours into the event, so we're like, hey, we're actually over here, and it was echo bike and rowing, and then followed by the max rep or one rep max complex and hang clean jerk. What was it? Hang clean front squat jerk, or do you remember specifically what it was?
It was clean, hang clean, jerk. I do
That's
remember
right.
that.
Yeah, that's right. And I do remember this. Like you hit 300 or something crazy, or no, you missed 300, right? You hit 290, or what was it? How did that go down?
So I hit 275, and granted, so with the setup, totally understand it. Didn't get to warm up as well as we would have. So we ended up just taking more reps. So I was actually getting kind of gassed. A lifting complex. You do a bunch of those in a row, you're breathing pretty hard. So I hit 275, and we're gonna load 295 on there. And this is funny. If you go look at the Road to Rich video, you can see him telling me this. But he's like, nobody cares about 295, man. Like, let's go. We got to go over 300 for this close. Like, all right, can't argue with that logic.
I
And
have a feeling. I have a feeling in that setting when Rich Froning tells you something, you listen.
yeah, 100%. And man, I never really missed jerks. And so the fact that I missed that jerk, I actually do think about that from time to time. Like, because what happened was I came up and kind of readjusted, and my pinky kind of came off the bar. And so I wasn't jerking with my full hand on the bar. That's why I missed it.
Oh man. Well, you mentioned this Road to Rich video, right? So,
Mhm.
which I think to this day it's got over 200,000 views. I mean, maybe even north of 230 or something like that. I think within 3 days it had 200,000 views. I mean, it was crazy how that went viral. You had, was it Elijah that kind of produced that video?
No, that was my buddy Omar.
Omar.
If you
Oh, I'm
remember
sorry, man.
him,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't believe Omar. I know Omar. But yeah,
yep.
he produced that. So was that all kind of part of this process? Like, how did he end up making that video?
Um, so do you remember the old school CrossFit games like Road to the Games YouTube series?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so Omar likes to make things like this. Like he's a creative type, and so when this whole thing came out, I kind of jokingly said, hey man, what if I win this and we did a Road to Rich video, like the Road to the Game, like kind of a parody thing, not like an actual serious video. And because again, at the time you're thinking of that 1 in 1,000 shot. So we just started collecting footage of me kind of training leading up to it, not knowing if we'd even use it. And then I won, and it was like, oh, now we got to get a lot of actual good footage. Let's use this as best we can. And then the experience was so phenomenal. I was like, hey, let's actually make this a serious thing. Let's talk about it and see how great it was, and maybe encourage some people to make some lifestyle changes, encourage some more people, and come down to do the BCS Classic and be Rich's partner because it was so great. So we had a lot of footage leading up to it. You guys were gracious enough to give Omar a media pass day of, to capture more footage and stuff like that. I think we used some of the footage that some of your guys caught as well, kind of mashed that all together with a post kind of debrief interview piece and threw it all together, and it's great. I've showed it to a lot of people. I actually showed it a couple just started at my gym about 2 or 3 months ago, and the guy, at first he was just trying to, figuring out his way around the CrossFit gym like everybody does, because there's a lot of weird things compared to like a Globo gym, right? And so he's watching me work out, and he's like, dude, how are you so good at this? I was like, man, let me tell you, you're seeing the end product of 8 years of work. He's like, no, I don't believe it. He's like, you have to have been good at this the whole time. I was like, no, not
Hmm.
at all. And so I had him go watch that video, and it's so funny because then he immediately went and watched the fittest man in history, Rich Froning doc, like
Oh
the same
yeah.
night. And now, dude, him and his wife, they're just all in on it. Like they're like, we're ready to make some lifestyle changes. Like we want to be good at this. Like he's texting me all the time. Like he's getting like body scans, watching his body fat drop, watching his muscle
So
mass grow.
cool.
So it's awesome to
Which
watch.
is exactly what you probably wanted out of the video, right? To inspire people.
Yeah.
So, and that video is on the CrossFit Mayhem YouTube channel for anybody that
Yep.
does want to watch it. I mean, you just search Road to Rich and it'll pop up at the top on
15
YouTube.
minutes.
Yeah, it's a great video. I mean, it was so well done. It's inspiring. It is a great story. You know, like you said, I think it's cool that you shared it with members as they get started. Um, okay, event one's done. You know, put it behind you. Move on to event two. I think that was the one in the arena with
The fall.
the epic the epic totem bar. People, no, what is it? People are cheering for you to hang on to the bar while Rich is doing an unbroken totem bar. Is that how it went? Tell me the
Yeah.
story. Yeah, yeah. Give me the full story.
So one, my goat in CrossFit is grip. So combine rope climbs with toes to bar, and I'm gonna have a bad time. Uh, so that workout was particularly tough. It was 2 rounds, 10 rope climbs, and 50 toes to bar, and partner hanging on the bar while you're going. If either of you drop, you got to run a penalty lap. Um, First round went great. Second round did not. uh, as we were running our first penalty lap, I think I dropped off at like 9. I didn't read the standards that well. I should have. So if anyone's doing this, read the standards of the BCS Classic workouts. I didn't realize that if you jumped up and came back down at the time, like you wouldn't have to run a penalty lap. So I jumped up and I actually got a bad grip. Like my gymnastics are kind of flopped sideways. So our first set wasn't very good. So it left us with like we got 9, and then so had to get like 41 for the second set to avoid another penalty lap. So Rich told me as we were running, he's like, I think I can get it. If you think you can hang, because he saw that I was struggling, and I was like, I'll do my absolute best. My forearms are blown, and
So
we're getting there.
this was round two. If you held on for the entire duration of Rich Froning doing 41 totem bar, then you guys would be done.
Yep, we finished the event, and
Okay.
I think we would have been. I think we ended up like 10th or 11th or 12th, something like that. I think we would have been top 5 in that event. So it would have been a significant thing because you got to run that penalty lap, and that's huge.
And to highlight the situation in the moment, because you guys started a little later than everyone else, we had pretty much reserved the entire arena just for the two of you. So it not only was there no other competitors doing this event, it was just Rich and Jon, but the stands are full and it's just all eyes on you guys in that moment. So I'm just kind of making sure people understand who were not there to see this.
Yep, I think that was the first one where like everybody could see Rich because that was in the big arena, like you said. The first event we did was on that pad, which I mean it was jam packed, but it was just not anything like the arena. And so, I mean, how many people were there? Do you remember total?
Oh, 3,000. It was
Yeah. So,
packed.
and they were all right there, right in front of me. But yeah, so we're up there, and Rich is just banging away his toes to bar, and I'm feeling my grip start to go, and about 5 short. I mean, I'm hearing people scream for me. I don't remember the guy you had for the announcer, but he was getting super hyped too, and he's like, "Come on, Jon, come on, Jon," and I really tried to hold on, but I like that was a moment like I didn't choose to break at that point. Like I literally probably went ankles straight up in the air, fell down on my back, kind of gave it everything I had. But again, there was a moment of like, oh man, that was embarrassing. But then after that, people were like, dude, that was so cool. And I think even Rich has said in a couple of talks about it, like that was awesome. Like he literally went to complete failure. You can't blame somebody for doing that.
Yeah. So what rep count did you come down?
36. We had 5
Okay.
left. I
Yeah.
did bang out the last 5 toes to the bar as we were running. I was like, hey man, I know you just got 36. I'm good. I'm good for 5. I got you.
well, I think one of the things that's so cool, and I've heard you talk about this, and I also heard Kyle talk about this. Is man, how just encouraging Rich is, right? He has no elitist about himself, right? There's not any bit of ego or arrogance about this. And can you expand on that a little bit? Because I think it's just really neat when you get to work out with really the fittest man in the world, right? Or one of, we'll call it, and 8-time CrossFit Games champion. And to hear you share that and to hear Kyle share that, I mean, expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's just super gracious the entire time. Again, Kyle's a fit dude. I'm a pretty fit dude relative to the population. You can't even really accurately measure Rich's fitness with a pretty fit dude in a regular CrossFit gym. So he's sitting there. He's probably still breathing through his nose. Like you could ask him a question at any point. But I mean, he's just encouraging. Like he could the entire time, he could see like I was absolutely gassed, and he'd say, "Hey, we're just gonna get a couple of reps, like setting little small goals to hit." And I mean, overall, just being nice about it. There's no expectations on it. Like he could absolutely tell when I was giving my best effort. You could absolutely tell that Kyle was giving his best effort. And like, I think about this a lot in life, actually. Like, what can you ask more of somebody than their best? Like, how could you ever get upset with somebody on game day, test day, whatever you want to call it, if they're giving their absolute best? And my answer is you can't. You can't get mad at someone if they're doing that. Now, you've got kids. I don't. There are probably days when they're not giving their best, and you have to have those conversations like, hey, this is what's in your control. You can give your best today, and your best may not be the same every day. But Rich was super gracious on that, and he's like, hey, I can tell you're giving it your all, and so this is great, and you're doing a great job.
That's awesome, man. So you guys finished that workout. You've got one more event. You've got the pistol burpee box jump over workout. Give me a little bit of kind of insight into behind the scenes about that event.
Well, one, I hate pistols. If I never saw a pistol workout again in my life, I would be happy. I don't have the hip shape for it. And believe me, I've tried to mobilize, nothing. So that was a little stressful. But that was superseded by the fact that, the BCS crew, the kind of handlers or whatever coming up, like Amanda was like, hey, um, you may want to bring like a shirt or something to put on the mats because people are getting burned out there. I was like, oh, cool, cool, cool. I just, because that's typically where I rest on burpee box jump overs, like lay on the ground a little bit, take a breath. I'm like, oh, this is going to be tough. So that was, I'd say in that year, that was like the grind workout. Like the first one's pretty short. The rope climb, toe to bar was pretty high skill, relatively speaking. This one was just, jump rope, burpees, pistols, dumbbell snatch, and then more burpees. And it was really hot. And my goal, I had two goals in that workout, and I got one, I did not get the other. One, it was start with 120 double unders, partner one does, partner two does 120 double unders, and then you go to the burpee box jumps. I just wanted to get my double unders unbroken, which was a big set for me. Not very good at those either. So I got mine unbroken, was feeling really pumped about that. And then my second goal was to just not trip on a burpee box jump over. And I can't remember if it was round two or three. I did end up tripping. I didn't fall, but I did trip and kind of have to stumble away. But it was, again, back to Rich being a good dude. He, at that point, just said, hey, it's fine. Calm down. You're fine. Just relax. We'll get through this. We're on the home stretch of this workout. And he was right. Like, it's really easy in that particular environment. It actually happened to me in 17.1, which we redid this year. So the burpee box jump and dumbbell snatch workout. The first time I did that in 2017 was in front of my whole gym, and I tripped and face planted. And so it's really easy to get caught up in the adrenaline of that, of like the embarrassment, and then your workout's just not going to go as well because you're not in a good headspace anymore. So Rich was able to just with a few words be like, hey, it's fine, don't worry about it, just forget it. And he was right. And that's how the rest of the workout went. And then we finished it. And then I promptly went and died in the shade somewhere for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, man. So, it sounds like every workout you basically gave everything. Would you say comparable to like previous open workouts or competitions? Did you give more than you usually do?
I would compare it to like if anyone's ever redone an open workout, like so you think you gave your best effort on Friday, and let's say you're going to redo it on Monday, and you somehow find that little bit of extra just to beat your old score or beat your buddy's score or whatever. I felt like I did that 3 times in the same day.
Yeah.
And so like physically I was exhausted, but also there's just like that like fight or flight adrenaline feeling. Like towards the end of the day, I was just like absolutely spent. But it was like the most satisfied feeling I've ever had because I knew that I'd left it all out there and I got to do it with someone I'd looked up to for years.
Yeah, man. So it kind of wrapping that day up, I think you guys, did y'all spend the night or did y'all head home that night?
We spent the night.
Yeah.
There was no way that I was gonna drive 3 hours back that night.
Yeah.
We went to Fuego and feasted and then just crashed at the house.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And if you could like recap that feeling at the end of the day, obviously you're exhausted. But just getting to hang out with Rich, compete with him, do those 3 events, like how would you kind of summarize that feeling that you had that evening?
Man, that was honestly like I could say that's in the top 3 highlights of my life. And it's not just from working out with Rich. It was the entire community of my friends and family kind of rallying around me and seeing how excited I was and being excited for me and loving on me that way. Like, I think there's a picture somewhere in the BCS of my whole gym. Like we got the BCS logo in the back with Rich, and I think there was like 30 something people there.
Yeah. It was an awesome picture. It's a great picture.
Yeah. And so you think about that, and that's about half my donors. So 60 people got me there. 30 came all the way down, spent their whole day just to watch as well. And so, as I was sitting and reflecting on that, it's like, man, like I'm a loved dude. And it was that particular day is a reminder of that. And so actually to this day, when things get frustrating and whatnot, as life kind of is. Like I think about that particular day and like the fundraiser piece, and it's like, dude, you're loved, dude. You've got a community that loves you and supports you. And today's just a bad day.
It's awesome,
Everything
man.
overall, life's pretty good for you.
That's awesome. Just a great reminder. So good. Um, so you have, you just texted me this the other day, but you've decided to kind of help you just add contribution to the top two fundraisers this year. So can you kind of share a little bit about that and like what your heart is behind it and kind of how you came to that thought and what exactly it is that you're doing?
Yeah. So I want to help somebody else experience what I got to experience. And so the first gym who has not won, so CrossFit Richardson's out and Boom Fit is out for this. Um, the first gym that has not won who gets to $1,000 on the fundraiser page, and I watch it about once a day. I will match the first $1,000 for them, so that their 1,000 will become 2,000. In addition, the second gym that hits that $1,000 mark, I will match 50%. So their $1,000 will become 1,500 when I see that.
Dude, that is so cool. And we will share that and get that word out. But I think that's so generous. And, it kind of gives them that momentum at the beginning that they need, you know what I mean, to get going. So
Yep.
very, very grateful for that. I know Ronald McDonald Charities is super grateful, really neat story that happened last year. You were at the event last year,
Mm-hmm.
but we're up presenting the check to Ronald McDonald Charities. And if you recall, it was not like we ended up donating more because somebody came up to me afterwards and said, hey, I want to donate X amount of dollars to that. And it was a significant
Mm-hmm.
amount. And it was just so neat, kind of like your heart right now. It's like, hey, I want to give to that, and just to be generous, just to support the cause. So just so neat to see how this kind of has been growing and how lives are being changed, hearts are being changed, and I appreciate you doing that. Yeah, so you're coming back this year. You got who's your partner?
Who do you think? My brother.
There. Oh, that's right, man. That's cool, man. You guys you've been training. You ready?
Yeah, we gotta get through that qualifier first. I'm
That's
excited
right.
for that.
Yeah.
I actually, it's gonna be a kind of a stressful week because I've got a competition that Saturday, so I got to hit the qualifier early in the week, and then I have a competition on Saturday with some other guys from the gym. Um, but I'm looking forward to it. Should be fun. We've been training a lot. Quarterfinals gave us something really fun to train for this year, so kind of just maintaining that fitness through all this.
Yeah. John, man, I really appreciate you taking time to share that story and that day. Again, I want to encourage anybody who has not seen The Road to Rich on YouTube, which is your story about this experience, to go watch that 15-minute video because it's just so well done and it gives you a great overview of the day. So, John, I'm pumped to see you here on August 28th for the comp.
Yep, sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, brother. See ya.